Thank you, Kirsty. Right, finally, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Strategy and Performance Scrutiny Board, Wednesday the 14th of October. Quite a full house this evening, so thank you everybody for joining. We shall start with substitutes nominated for this meeting and apologies for absence.
There are no substitutes, Chair, and there's been no apologies.
Right, okay. Thank you, Janet. Members' interest. Do any members have any disclosable pecuniary or any other interest which would prevent them from participating in any discussion of the items or participating in any vote upon the items or any other interests? No. Okay, great. Admission to the public. The first two items on the agenda are open to the public. However,
there is an exempt item, Chair.
There is, yeah, that's what I say. The third item is exempt, which is item 7. So we will be going off live when we come on to item 7. Minutes of the Strategy and Performance Scrutiny Board meeting held on the 3rd of September 2020. Do we have any members to propose and a seconder?
Yeah, move them as a collective vote.
So I think I've got Councillor Naeem has proposed them.
Happy to second, Chair.
And who was that, sorry?
Councillor Holden.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Holden, yeah. And Councillor Holden to second. Now, obviously, we're having a few changes at the moment as well with regards, because chairs have not been able to sign minutes since we've been having meetings on Zoom. So I would also like to make it known that as chair of this meeting, I'm also happy with those minutes, and my electronic signature will actually be attached to those minutes. Okay, our first item is item number 5, which is the Office 365 and ModGov progress and opportunities. Now, I think this is you, Craig.
Thank you. Good evening, members. Good evening, colleagues. This is a paper to update on the current position of Microsoft Office 365 and Modern Gov, highlighting opportunities that are presented by the platforms. These are 2 digital transformation projects that were actually initiated prior to COVID-19, but are now looking forward to providing kind of a fundamental underpinning in terms of supporting future council strategy with looking at the people, place and digital elements. So in terms of that digital transformation, within a week of lockdown, 1,200 people were working from a location other than the office, with 200 people enabled to securely use their home device. Since March, we've been making a wide range of solutions that have been rapidly deployed to meet customer demand. So we know that the way we're working as an organisation isn't going to be the same as it once was, and we're adapting to that longer term home working. And Office 365 and Modern Gov are kind of 2 of the linchpins, I think, that are going to really be supporting that journey going forward. So in terms of Office 365, we have now 80% of Office have now been licensed to use the software, and that's either by a device installation or by access to a virtual desktop. Excuse me. And we'll be following up with that last 20% between October and November to mop up sort of any of the outstanding issues that are mostly related to device configuration, etc., or devices that need to be upgraded in order to support the platform. For those that have migrated and onboarded, we've got a range of sort of different cohorts of existing users. What we're finding is pioneers. That's those that are exploring and integrating the apps and kind of just experimenting and using it, and that's kind of how we're learning. So the paper outlined how we've got a good cross-service collaboration from the Safer Workplaces delivery group, and they're kind of making the best use of 365 and particularly Microsoft Teams in order to look at the future asset strategy. And that's making sure that, looking at task management, looking at document sharing, code document editing, and video calling and video messaging. One of the improvements we see from Microsoft Teams is that we've got lots of different functionality, but it's all in one place. So we're not jumping through different applications to deliver the same kind of project management, if you like. We're also launching a digital inclusion partnership, and that's working with the Office 365 platform to enable a kind of ongoing collaboration with our partners in the voluntary sector, but also the private sector. So whilst we're talking about 365 a lot for our internal collaboration, we've also got tool sets there where we can really kind of collaborate, certainly now that we're working remotely with our voluntary and community sector. Another cohort is the kind of the enthused, those that understand the benefits, but actually perhaps are lacking some confidence. And I'd say that's the biggest cohort. So we've got people that are using it and maybe playing with it, but require a little bit more assistance. And then we've got kind of the more skeptics that are perhaps have had onboarding challenges through technical issues, or perhaps don't have a higher range of digital skills, or some people that may be more averse to change. And we're working with our workforce development colleagues to build a program support, particularly around those that are wanting to move forward, but perhaps are lacking that confidence, but also working with those that are using it effectively and pioneering to really develop some case studies and testimonies to really help and bring those other sectors on board and start using and really maximising that investment. So we'll be putting a training offer together. And again, when we're talking about who this is to officers and to members. This is organisation wide. And that'll be a mix of team learning, self-help, but also a learning pathway. So Microsoft offer lots of resources. So there's lots of online self-training that can be done. So we'll be looking towards the end of the year at launching a real kind of dedicated support program. And we'll also be focusing on the other 365 tools. I've said many times before, lots of people focus on Microsoft Teams, but actually there's a huge range of other options and applications that we'll start working on and promoting and looking at how we use them to really embed and make us an effective agile workforce. So as part of the digital transformation function as well, led by myself, we're also putting together a robust process where we have existing applications that either come to a natural contractual end, or we're looking to build new digital solutions. We want to make sure we're maximising our investment. So we'll be looking to look at what the tools of Office 365 brings and try and use that as a default where possible, and only really procure any external third-party systems should it be absolutely necessary and business critical. We're also looking at healthcare integration, and that's a real focal point, obviously, for a budget and obviously the way we're going to work on health and well-being. And we're putting together there's lots of partner organisations that are looking at this together. So we're working with partners across West Yorkshire, but other councils across the country, in fact, to look at how we may be able to procure 365 licenses in the future at a health level. So public health, adult social care, we may be able to look at procuring it and organise it at a more national level to real kind of get some savings in the future. But also importantly, how do we integrate our Microsoft Office 365 environment with the health services such as CCGs or NHS trusts to really get that collaborative working going. Whilst that's not a normal way of working, that's the tenancies, if you like, the way Microsoft is set up is very organisational centric. So we've got to understand how we do that in a safe and secure manner, but we're working with partner organisations to really explore those opportunities. Moving on to ModGov. Modern Gov was initiated pre-pandemic, but was put temporarily on hold, certainly with a push to move digital democracy as we see it now on Zoom to make sure that democracy kept on going. And I think we're almost one of the first in West Yorkshire to get democracy back up and running in these meetings and having it virtual. ModGov has now been procured. There's a kick-off meeting, which is this week. That's mostly on the technical configuration. Cross-party invites has gone out to members to have them involved in certainly some of the further configuration discussions where it adds value to them, but also as part of that wider training. But details for those members that have signed up to that will be sent out. Members have already embedded in the Paperless Council meeting change journey as part of Democratic Services recommendations. We've gone through that kind of process over probably the last 12 to 18 months. I think it's embedded a digital culture, I think, with members in terms of how we do this. And certainly the pandemic has been more of a catalyst for that. But we do recognise that the process was a little clunky. It had its issues. But as we previously said, we were looking to maximise the investment we had at that time. Upon evaluation, we have decided that it was approved that we would procure ModGov. ModGov is used by 80% of local authorities for their digital democracy needs. And obviously we'll be joining that kind of cohort to really kind of move that forward. So it's an opportunity to streamline the kind of whole agenda setting, the report distribution process, maximising that functionality that it has. So, it will be a journey where we start on making sure meetings are efficient and effective and the documents are shared much more simpler. but there will be more and more to be learned, certainly from other organisations that are using it. You know, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We're going to look at what other organisations, look at the learning, look at the pitfalls, etc. So estimates around more governed other organisations that there's up to 75% of savings in time around the administration. So as it works with standard templates, how they create meetings, the schedules are automatically pushed along with the documents onto desktop applications or even mobile applications. So that allows members to be much more agile. And again, that's a continuation of the current digital journey that I feel members are currently on as we're sat here now on Zoom. So, you know, I think we've come a real long way in a short period of time. So I think, you know, it's a credit to everybody involved, from members and through to officers at the back, to get this up and running. And I think we'll continue that journey. And this is also supporting the green agenda, because there will be significant paper reduction once I think we go fully onto modern gov. So in the during the quarter that we were in lockdown, there was £10,000 worth of print reduction across the organisation. So spread that across a year and carrying on working in the agile manner that we are, we know there's £40,000 worth of savings in terms of £40,000 less paper volume being printed. And I think, you know, there is more to come from that, because I think using more digital tools, more collaboration through ModGov, more collaboration through Office 365, we can further reduce that kind of printing. So the kind of conclusions around that are, we are still rolling out Office 365 and Modern Gov. The culture and training support is not just now, that's going to be a longer term program to make sure we maximise that investment and everyone's comfortable in that kind of new digital journey. We're already seeing positive stories from people that are up and running and really pioneering with Office 365 to collaborate more effectively by sharing documents, co-editing documents. Digital tools, skills and leadership is going to be a continual theme within the sort of digital Calderdale programme of work. So we'll be working our workforce development colleagues to understand how digital fits, not just as a digital transformation function, but how does digital fit within our organisation and everybody's operational plans. And again, 365 is going to be kind of a default option. We want to make sure we maximise that. So when we're building tools, what can we use with Office 365 to make sure that we don't have to renew any new contracts of software that we don't have to, because actually 365 will deliver it for us. And the remote working through the borough, digital transformation, it's gone really rapid and it's made us move forward at a much quicker pace. And in reality, that's a kind of momentum we want to keep up. You know, we proved we can do it. So we need to configure and use our tools effectively to make sure that we can maintain that kind of momentum. So that kind of concludes the overview of the paper. If there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you for that, Craig. Let me just clear something off the screen. It's really interesting that, and it's quite exciting really that we're actually moving forward as an authority with, you know, the latest technology that's available to us. And I've got the 365 now, and I'm learning it. There is a lot of new things on there that I'm trying to get my head around, and I'm sure most of the members will, and staff as well. And I'm sure we'll get there. And the savings as well so far on the paper, the £40,000 a year, that's quite a good saving. I don't know what the original estimate was on that, but that's certainly a good figure. Members, I'm going to open this up to yourselves for any questions. Councillor Holden.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to start by saying thanks to Craig and the team back at Mulcher House for the amount of work that they've done on this. On a weekly basis, my business does Office 365 migrations. I know exactly how much work is involved, and the task that they've undertaken has been immense, given the size of the team. One thing I would like to ask is, what sort of time frame are we looking at for all members to be running on Office 365? And secondly, from a support point of view going forwards, is there enough resilience within the team to support remote workers, etc., given the current staffing structure at Mulcher House? Those are the two key points really from me. Okay,
so all councils have been enabled, if you like. So we've got every council has been licensed. 39 have currently been migrated to the cloud. We've got some appointments that are all ongoing this week. We have a number of appointments to upgrade some of the iPads next week. 6 are on hold because we need some new devices. So the actual licensing is actually done, so it's really around the configuration of devices, and I know that's been ongoing at a kind of pace. We've got, so I'd like to think, I mean, I'm not going to totally quote, but if we follow up with all them appointments, I mean, and I think we've got probably around 4 to really go by the end of October. So as long as we've got access to those appointments, and I think it's really just device configuration. So I think the gift is within councillors on their availability. So I know Andy Moorhouse, who works for the digital and IT teams, he's been working as kind of that member contact. I'd like to, I'm not going to say definitely end of October, but I think it's dependent on the availability of councillors just to do that one-to-one kind of work, because what we want to do is not just lump it to you. It's a case of actually, you might have 3 devices which all need syncing up, and we want to make sure that they all work effectively. So I think we've had a couple of issues where it's been painful. That's been learnt from, and we want to take that forward to everybody else. So it's making sure that all members actually have now been licensed, so they are there. It's now just about making sure that all devices are synced up. So we've really got around most of them. We've got 6 appointments this week, 7 next week, and then we've got 6 devices that are on order. So can't give a definite time frame, but the majority of the work is done.
Thank you.
And there was just my second question, Chair.
Resilience.
The resilience of the IT support.
Yeah, so in terms of Office 365, a lot of the work has been the licensing and getting everything uploaded. But in terms of training and in terms of culture, we're not seeing it as just a digital or IT project. To me, it's an organisation-wide project. So I set up a kind of a project governance, which includes workforce development, because we want to use their skills in terms of understanding the workforce, the digital skills, about that digital culture change, and they're working alongside part of the digital and IT teams to get lots of the training uploaded and online. So obviously we're remote, we're looking for online self-serve training where we can. Microsoft have a learning pathway, so that's almost like a modular learning development plan which everybody can log into, use, track, but we'll also be doing sort of group training sessions for teams as well, so teams on teams if you like. In terms of the resilience for remote, I'm not going to answer on behalf of John Smith, who looks after the technical support element of IT. But there is an increase in the help desk tickets that I'm aware of, and we're looking at how we manage that demand effectively. So it's tough, I think we had a bit of a peak and a bit of a trough, but I think now there's a realization that this is much longer term. I think now there's a kind of second wave. That's a poor terminology given where we're at, but it's almost actually there's a lot more 365 is coming through. There's a lot of change for agile working, so there is a lot more requests coming through, but they are being dealt with. That demand is being looked at. So I think certainly the IT help desk are doing the best they can given the issues we have in terms of resource and just the sheer number of tickets.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dickinson, I'm gonna let Zora come in now, if that's okay. Then I'll come to you, and then Councillor Dacre's also wanting to comment as well. So Zora, I'll come to you now.
Thank you very much, Chair. It was just to pick up on the point that Councillor Holden raised, because I think there's some real challenges around resource and capacity. I just wanted to give some reassurance that we're very mindful of that. And when we agreed over a year ago to embark upon the Office 365 project, we had no idea of what was around the corner and the phenomenal amount of work that IT would have to undertake to enable the whole of our workforce and and other contacts to be able to work digitally. So I think it's fair to say that there's a phenomenal amount of work that's taken place. There's a lot more to do. What we have achieved in a very short period of time is a massive digital transformation that we've probably been trying for 3 years to achieve, if truth be known. And necessities forced us to actually make it happen and make it happen quickly. And we need to capitalise on that now. But we also need to acknowledge and and within CLT, we're very, very aware of this, as is our portfolio lead, that the greater the resilience on IT, the more the need to make sure that we've got that resilience and that capability built into the system, both in terms of the technical resilience and in terms of the human resource and the IT teams that need to support that. So we're very mindful of that, and we're continuing to keep that under review, and we'll actually increase that if it becomes appropriate that we need to do that.
Okay, thank you, Zora. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. With the future of remote working seeming assured, there's been some news in the media about monitoring performance and productivity. I'm just wondering whether the 365 suite offers the opportunity to assess that sort of productivity, or whether it's done in other ways.
So Office 365 does have something called Insights, which does monitor some of the performance. It also looks at making sure what tasks you may have missed by looking at your emails. There is some resource management in there, and certainly performance management. I think where we're at with Office 365 is we've been it's kind of a bit of a chicken and egg. We need to get it out to support the remote working through virtual, or actually do you get yourself au fait with the software, then roll out? The situation meant we've had to go, right, let's get the software enabled. And what we're going to do from probably November onwards is really start concentrating on some of the other aspects. So getting some of the fundamental training in place. What is Teams? What's its benefits? But actually, there's lots more add-ons. Like I said before, lots of people think Office 365 is just Teams. Actually, there's a huge range of different applications within the software suite. And Insights is one of them. I mean, I use it and it creates focus time within my diary. It looks at who I've been collaborating with. It actually suggests you haven't had one-to-ones with certain people in a given time. You might want to think about that. So it starts nudging and prompting around that. So there are performance management aspects within there, and that is something certainly on the agenda that we wish to explore, and would be working alongside workforce development colleagues around that, because again, this isn't so much technical. This is I mean, Zora, I say all the time, but this is as much a cultural project as it is a technical project. So we'll be working alongside workforce development colleagues to look at what aspects of 365 can support that.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to jump in here. Nikki, Stephen and Roger, if you can still hear us, we are running a little bit behind, obviously, because the meeting started a little bit late this evening. So if you're okay for time, we might just come on to your item just a little bit later than what we aimed for, which was going to be 20 to 7, and it's not looking like it's going to be that now. So probably going to have another 20 minutes at least, if that's okay. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate that. Councillor Dacre.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, Councillor Holden's already given thanks to the staff, and I'd like to echo those thanks. They've had to do a very difficult job unexpectedly, and by and large it's been done very well. There have been a few teething problems for some people, and I think that's inevitable with a changeover of this kind. In terms of ongoing resilience, then the staffing and the dealing with queries is something that I have discussed with Zora and her team, and we'll be discussing it again. And as Zora has said, and I will be kept on how the team are coping with queries. I think that we would all assume that many queries will fall away as time goes on, as officers and indeed members become more used to the new system. So there should be some light at the end of the tunnel in that way. In terms of Councillor Dickinson's question on monitoring performance, I just wanted to jump in there because obviously I have the HR portfolios as well as IT. And whilst I hear what's said about the possibility of some monitoring being possible through 365, I would want to assure everybody that that will never be more than a part of the way in which Calderdale would manage its staff. It may have its place, but there are many other ways of managing staff, and they will also be used. And I would hate anybody to have any idea that there will be somebody sitting there in an office somewhere who simply manages staff simply by looking at a computer screen. That just isn't, it's certainly not going to happen when I'm the lead member, and I'm sure that there's no intention within the council for that to happen either. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dacre. Councillor Naeem.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And thanks, Craig, for the sort of introducing the report. I think it's very informative, and I know, having transitioned to 365, I know what a challenge it's been. I just wanted to know whether does this affect the way our service users access the council services in terms of form filling online and things like that, or is this specifically for the people who actually sort of are working for the council, or does it, does it have any impact on the service users at all?
There is no negative impact on service users. It is primarily a kind of collaboration tool internally, but in terms of form filling and web integration, we're currently using different tools for that at the moment. But as I say, that never stops us looking at what 365 does offer. I said we are using it to collaborate, certainly with other partners. So, for example, on digital inclusion, that's a huge theme of the council. Whilst we've had a digital think tank with partner organisations such as Lloyds Banking, voluntary community sector, we want to make sure them conversations keep going. So rather than just having no conversation between meetings, actually we're setting up a SharePoint extranet and using the Yammer application, and that'll be launched to enable us to have that kind of constant conversation and share resources, share links, grant funding applications, etc., to try and narrow that digital divide. So at the minute, we're not using it for any online applications that impact the service user, if you like, in terms of form filling. That's not to say it might not have a place as we develop the future council going forward. It's a tool that could be there to be used, but every single project that involves a customer journey will be looked at robustly, and the most appropriate technology will be used for that solution, be it 365 or something that would be more appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Councillor Scullion, I don't know if you want to add anything to this or no. Okay, what we'll do is, if there's no more questions, everybody, thank you ever so much for that, Craig. It's really interesting to hear what's going on within the authority. We're really making progress with this, and at quite a pace as well, really, which is really good, especially when we've got things that are really hindering any progress at the moment, which is the virus. So moving on, thank you ever so much, Craig. We'll go on to item 6, which is the asset review programme scoping paper for the Scrutiny Board. And this is Alan Lee, I think.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
It's like Celebrity Squares is this, trying to find you, everybody keeps moving around. Alan, is it just you, and is there...
Dan's in attendance as well, but with your permission, Chair, I'll just say a very few words of introduction for
right.
Partly, I'm conscious of time, but secondly, the intention with this paper is it's an initial scoping paper. I know there's been some interest expressed from members of the board to have a look more closely at the latest position with the review of the council's assets. Mm-hmm. What this paper really primarily does is it sets out the key areas of current activity at a high level, just setting out where we are at the moment, and invites the members to examine whether there are any areas that they'd like to scrutinise further. What I would say though, Chair, is all of these areas of activity are overseen by or under the auspices of the council's cross-party asset management board. So without wishing to tell you your business, we just need to be careful that we don't duplicate existing activity for member oversight. But as I say, the intention of the paper is to give you the opportunity to explore any areas of activity that you'd like to examine in more detail. And I'll probably stop there unless Councillor Scullion wants to add anything to what I've said.
Right. Yeah, Councillor Scullion.
Conscious, Chair, that we've had recently, obviously, the Future Council reports to Cabinet and then called in, and a lengthy discussion about the management of office accommodation and estates below the line, and subsequently the Future Council report on buildings from which we provide our services, and that's also due to Colin, I think it's next week. So quite a lot of discussion of the estates programme. And I'm very conscious, really, and I suppose I'm sort of pleading with you in terms of our small group of officers who run those services, who are pretty stretched, really, in terms of managing the current situation and managing the way forward for the council. Really, we won't be having a CAFM, an asset management group, which is an advisory group for the Cabinet, until the end of November, beginning of December. We'll be looking at those things in more detail. And I think Mr. Lee's provided you with a brief update on the programme back in 2013. And CAFM, of course, has been working on those issues over the last 7 years. So I suppose in terms of when might be a useful point to come back to these issues as strategy and performance in terms of the overall strategic direction, I think given the call-ins that we've got and the Future Council programme and the CAFM meeting, I wonder if January might be the time to come back to a more detailed look at this. But really, we're in your hands.
I think that's a good decision, to be quite honest, and I think it's certainly wise. I'm happy for it to come back and have a look at this in January. I mean, it's something that we've kept an eye on for the past few years, to be quite honest. And I mean, we regularly have meetings with yourself, Alan, anyway, for sort of like some updates as the year goes, throughout the year. However, I mean, we've brought this to the meeting tonight. I think if any members have got any questions they want to ask now, this is an opportunity to ask those questions. And if not, we can, like I say, we'll bring it back in January anyway. Any members, any questions? No. So, okay, so we're all happy for that then to come back in January. Yeah, I think that's a wise decision. Yeah, happy with that then. So that was short and sweet.
Fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Happy with that, Chair.
Right.
You're too far behind on your timings now, Chair. Thank you.
Sorry, Alan, I didn't quite catch that.
So I think you're not too far behind on your timings now. Thank you.
We're not actually, no, 4 minutes now. Yeah, we've really caught up quite well. Thank you. Right then. Okay. We shall move on. This next item is our exempt item.
Sorry, Councillor Bellinger, can we just do the work programme before we cut the stream? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course we can. Yeah, so item item 8. So
yeah, so members have seen the work programme. It is up to date as of today. As always, happy to make any amends. Got a note to build in the CAFM asset management review work for January now as well, so I'll take that back. But if there are any questions or any additions or amends, more than happy to take those back if members have any.
Right. Councillor Porritt.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if other members saw the email that I sent a couple of weeks ago about I went to a really interesting training session about what was it about? I'm just checking my notes. It was about social value and the inclusive economy, and particularly with regards to procurement. And a lot of the, I know we've had Deborah Gaunt in before to speak to us about procurement, but a lot of the work that they were talking about was really in its infancy in terms of how to build this in how we're working and how we're procuring services and goods. And it was something that I thought would be really useful for us to look at, not immediately, because obviously it is in its infancy, but if we could invite, we had Deborah Gaunt, Rachel Mitchell and Kirsten Fussing at the meeting. So I don't know I can't remember which of them is doing which aspects of the work. But if we could bring that back, if we could bring it to us maybe, I don't know, in 6 months' time or so, if you think that would be long enough, just to see how it's progressing, because it is obviously so much about our strategic thinking and how we're performing. It seemed like a really appropriate thing to bring to this board.
I agree. I think there may also be a little bit of crossover there with our commercialisation team as well. I'm sure that, and Mike, if you're still with us somewhere. Is Mike gone? Is Mike not with us? Hi, Mike. Yeah, you do. I think we had a meeting in the past where the social value of procurement was actually mentioned, and I think that might have been through our commercialisation team, if I remember rightly. And if it was, it might be worth having them involved in that meeting as well.
Can we have a look at that? I have a feeling we dealt with it as separate items, Chair, but I might be wrong about that. I know we had Councillor Porritt is right. We have had Deborah Gaunt and others there to talk about the social value aspect in the past. But if we can have a look at that and liaise with Councillor Porritt perhaps and construct an item for later in the for sometime in 2021.
Yeah, I think it's particularly the work that Rachel Mitchell was talking about with regards to the inclusive economy and how we can use more of our small and medium-sized businesses and work with our communities to provide services and goods. It was just really, really interesting work and looked like a new way of doing things. So I think it's something we should look at.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so with that to add, then where do you want to put that, Lauren?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do some work and build it in, and then happy to share that with members as soon as that's done.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, members, that they want to add to the work programme? No, I think we're all okay with that. If anything crops up in the meantime anyway, we'll just email out everybody and we'll just try and fit it in whenever we can. Yeah, okay. Right, are we happy to take off the live streaming now, please?
Yeah, can we just ask all members and officers and partners to just make sure they're muted? And if we just give Tilly a couple of minutes to make sure she's disconnected.